I love when they have like a fake room too. They created like in a studio. They were like, this is what a Zoomer room looks like, and then she's got like one leg up and this is so bad.
You
What
got the
the
knee right.
dude? This is the most like brand you can get. Industry plant streamer. She's not even streaming. She's not streaming. These aren't from her streams. She might actually stream at certain points, but no matter what she does, it's going to be all brand, okay? It's so corporate.
Way later than.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God. Acknowledge that you have a fake set, you fucking weirdo.
Yeah, it's branded. I don't know what to tell you. Also, are you offended that I'm in a studio? Yeah, it's a set, and we sort of designed it to my liking, and it's all pretty personalized, so.
If you are a conservative who has been rejected by Hollywood in either your script writing or acting career, where do you go? Well, of course, you go to Ben Shapiro's Daily Wire, and there is a new addition to the team, and that is a woman called Brett Cooper, who really just looks so much like Ben Shapiro and even talks like Ben Shapiro. Like, it's not so much the way she sounds, it's just the way she argues her points. So you guys might have actually seen Brett Cooper because Hasan reacted to her, and Noah Sampson was tweeting about her channel, how it seems like it's been astroturfed because it has so many subscribers and it's only been around for a short period of time. So what I thought we'd do today is just look at some of Brett's content. And like I started the video saying, I want to discuss the wider point about the Daily Wire being a bunch of actors and people who wanted to work in Hollywood, but supposedly got rejected by Hollywood because it's too woke, so they all had to become political commentators for the right wing, working for things like PragerU and the Daily Wire, and I think it probably says so much about these people. And like you're going to see with Brett's content, it comes across really, really manufactured, really, really inauthentic, obviously has a budget behind it, but it's funny because it obviously has a budget behind it, but it's trying to look like it's being recorded in someone's like bedroom. I'm sorry, Brett, you're never going to replicate the authentic feel of a pile of chocolate oranges and a Viking horn. And I also want to talk about like maybe the more sinister angle of her essentially basically saying everything that Ben Shapiro says, but purposefully the way she frames it is meant to appeal to younger audiences. So with Ben Shapiro, you might be turned off by how much of an angry little zealot he is, but with Brett's content, she kind of frames it in a more like rational way, like, this is just my opinion, you can disagree with it and all that stuff, but essentially she is saying the same thing. And what is popular for the right wing at the moment? To demonize trans people. And in one of the videos you're going to see, Brett says, well, why is America obsessed with transgender people? Well, every second video on her channel being about attacking transgender people. So all of that in the video today, but before we go any further, if you want to support the video, please like this video and also perhaps leave a comment. For today's video, I have a question for people. Because we're talking about conservative actors and these people saying, you know, they couldn't make it in Hollywood because of woke Hollywood, what is either the best conservative film you've watched, or who is the best conservative actor out there? So for me personally, I'd say the best conservative film I've watched is Top Gun, just, you know, unashamedly pro-military propaganda. The best conservative actor, probably James Woods used to be pretty good in like the 1980s. Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon is like hilarious. He's a great actor, just an awful human being. And then you obviously have people like Clint Eastwood. So let me know in the comments, who is the best conservative actor and what is the best conservative film? Also consider subscribing to help me grow this chocolate orange pyramid, something Brett will never be able to do. For every 5k we get a new chocolate orange. We're close to getting to 75, so help me get another one to complete this little pyramid. Also subscribe to my second channel, the Kavernacle Extra, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I want to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, and the benefits of that are getting my Nintendo Switch friend code and getting access to the private patrons Discord server. Unlike Brett, I'm not astroturfed by a big conservative media outlet, so doing this full time is thanks to my patrons and the viewers. So who is Brett Cooper? What is her new YouTube channel about? So let's get into it. Here is her going on Ben Shapiro's show, and this seems like it's meant to be an interview. If you watch it, please let me know in the comments, do you think this is scripted? It seems like Ben Shapiro is just saying this into the void and then they cut her bits in later. But here is Ben introducing his sister.
What exactly is the comment section? Why should people give it a listen or a watch?
So the comments section is a social media content review show. You know how you respond to woke TikToks for your YouTube channel? So we are basically doing that, but not just responding to TikToks. We are responding to whatever is going viral on social media, whether that be political news, celebrity news, a ridiculous tweet by a politician. We are hoping to reach a newer demographic, my peers especially. I went to UCLA, much like you, and so I dealt with a lot of leftist peers. Most of my friends growing up were on the left, and I lost a lot of them when I started speaking out. And so in that world, I realized that there was not a lot of entertainment. There was not a lot of social media and internet content that was for more conservative-minded young people. And so I'm excited to be diving in and creating something for them.
So, Brett, let's talk a little bit about your background. So for folks who have never seen your stuff before, how did you get into politics? Because that's not how you started.
No, not at all. I was a professional actor for over a decade. I started in theater, worked in Atlanta and New York, then ended up in Los Angeles doing TV and film. And then I graduated from high school when I was 16 and went to UCLA. And it was during that time that I stepped away from Hollywood just because of politics. I did not feel like I had a place there, and I was constantly having to compromise my values for my work, which was not something that I was comfortable with. And during the BLM riots and during COVID, I started speaking out and also lost my footing a bit in the industry there because of that. And as a result, I started working with PragerU, who is in Los Angeles. And from there, the rest is history. I started writing for the Foundation for Economic Education. I worked for Young Americans for Liberty. And now I'm with Daily Wire.
Ben absolutely seems ecstatic about this new show. But again, pretty tried and true excuse for not doing so well as an actor. It was woke Hollywood. I got rejected by woke Hollywood. I couldn't work there anymore because no one liked me because of my political beliefs. But I thought I'd look into her IMDb to see how successful a career she had. Now, I'm not hating anyone for getting into acting and maybe not becoming next Hollywood A-lister. Obviously very hard to succeed in that business. But I will just say it's a trend with the Daily Wire to hire people who have tried and failed to break into Hollywood. So if you go on her IMDb page, the main thing that she was in, and I hadn't heard about this before, but obviously it's based on the famous Christian Slater film, she was in 8 episodes of Heathers, the show. And a bunch of stuff I don't have much reference for, something called Bobby and Gil, in 4 episodes of a show called Shots Fired, in 2 episodes of Gortimer Gibbons' life on Normal Street, in a short film called Little Emily, in another short called The Boy Scout, and another thing called Parental Guidance. So not setting the world on fire with her acting skills, but has credits, has been in significant productions, obviously has some talent as an actress, probably fits in quite well for doing very heavily scripted and edited content for a conservative news YouTube channel. But based on her credits, I'm struggling to believe the primary reason she was rejected from Hollywood was because of her political views. Not that it's just hard to succeed in that business, and maybe people just didn't like your auditions. If you listen to podcasts by John Hamm, who's of course like very established actor, he talked about being about this age and a bit older, where he would be going to auditions with people like Heath Ledger and Leonardo DiCaprio, but he could never get the roles, and he didn't break through until his 30s when he did Mad Men. And that is obviously a very, very talented guy, but he took ages to do that. He even debated quitting acting to become an acting teacher. But for these people like Brett Cooper and like Michael Knowles, it seems like switching to conservative media is something that will boost your profile a lot more. And of course, Daily Wire also makes films. Have they promised her potentially in the future? Maybe she could potentially be or star in one of these conservative garbage films. Who knows? So thanks for the introduction, Ben Shapiro. Let's go on to Brett's own channel. Here is her introducing us to the comment section.
Okay, so we all do it. We stay up way later than we should, laying in bed, scrolling on Instagram and TikTok, trying to find content that is not angry leftists having a meltdown. That's where the comment section comes in. Because like most young people, my life is literally overrun by woke ideologies. Like I'm telling you guys, when I was at UCLA, I had two communist manifestos chucked at my head, literally. Like, forgive my passion, but guys, like I lost friends over this because I wouldn't support BLM and I wouldn't shut up about my political beliefs. And it doesn't end in school. I mean, our pop culture, all of our movies, our social media, they are all run by progressive mentalities. It's obnoxious. So we've decided to change that. Like, we deserve better. We deserve content that is irreverent and fun, but without leftism, being shoved down our throat.
I mean, I wouldn't mind some irreverent and fun content, but this is not what this channel is about. Because I feel like out of all the conservative commentators I watch, she is heavily sanitized. I'm speculating here, but I think she's not going down the route of being completely hateful bigot like Ben Shapiro, even though she does say a lot of the same things, is because it will really tarnish her reputation. But I hope you guys all appreciate the fake streamer set up like this is just her bedroom. The ex-college student who wants us to believe that she's basically a YouTuber now or a streamer. And also someone who went to like 2 universities doing obviously like my degree in history and a master's in international relations. The image of universities being like indoctrination for wokeness is pretty hilarious to me, in the sense that like there are lots of conservative professors, there are lots of liberal professors who absolutely hate leftism. In my 4 years of university, I had one Marxist professor who is actually probably the best professor, but the idea that you just have leftism shoved down your throat, I think, is pretty laughable. It's a very common conspiracy theory. In America, more than it is the UK, I didn't really experience people throwing the Communist Manifesto in my head despite having to read it for one of my courses. Most people in university are not communists. When I did my undergrad, I was more of a liberal. I probably became more like Marxist leaning after my international relations, but that was because also of the political climate in the UK, not because people were indoctrinating me with scary leftism. So Brett makes a lot of videos, a lot of like TikTok style content for YouTube Shorts, but primarily focused on like short YouTube clips where, like she says, she reviews viral social media posts and the comment section of those posts. So that's the little niche she's trying to carve out for herself. I say carve out like she isn't massively astroturf and probably has an absolutely massive budget for this stuff. But I want to focus on her anti-trans content because literally every second video is about transgender people. Again, she's not as hateful as Ben Shapiro, but a lot of the substance is very, very similar. And also I would say she's taken some lessons from the quartering school of content, in that the title and the thumbnail is meant to get you outraged. So you comment something hateful, but the substance of the video maybe isn't what you were expecting. So here's the first one, which I find bizarre to even get mad about. Target is selling trans clothing, question mark, question mark. So let's watch this video.
Target started trending because it launched its 2022 Gay Pride collection, because it's almost June, which means Pride Month, rainbow flags. And part of this Pride collection were discreet chest binders and packing underwear, which, if you don't know, chest binders are for women who want to compress their chests to look like men, like they don't have boobs, like it's before they get like top surgery. And then packing underwear is for men who want to be able to hide the package. Target has now decided to sell these. People were in an uproar, rightfully so. You can see here, this is the photo that they're using in their promotions. This is a real-life non-binary trans something couple. The actual attire, you see here, Pride Adult Tomboy X Compression Top Beige. I have a problem with the fact that it's called tomboy. I was a tomboy. I still identify as a tomboy. That doesn't mean that I need to flatten my chest and walk around pretending that I'm a man. So it's weird that they're conflating that with being a tomboy. That feels dangerous to young people. Maybe dangerous is not the right word, but it feels harmful for impressionable young minds. Target has the right to sell whatever they please. I'll defend them there because they are a private company. Even though I think that these binders and packing underwear, it's incredibly weird. Basically, Target is just trying to get brownie points from the alphabet mafia. So the takeaway here is just vigilance. Schools, corporations, whatever, you name it, they are slipping this gender ideology in everywhere. So open your eyes and just pay attention, basically, because we can't use laws and government to change the culture to fit our ideas. It is never a great idea, nor is it effective, to use government force to completely attempt to change the culture in our direction. Because I look at a lot of this stuff and I get inflammatory and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so harmful. This is awful. I disagree with this. And immediately my mind goes to, we have to legislate it. We have to ban it. But you have to take a step back. We have to look at history. That really has never worked. And legislating this morality, it's what the left does. We don't really want to be like them. And I get it if you disagree, but that's just my 2 cents on it. You're welcome to disagree. To ban it, to ban it, to ban it.
I like how that video ends with her saying that like the left like legislates morality. And she really wants to do that too, but then she's saying, no, that's what the left does. And it kind of reminds me of Ben Shapiro, and the differences between them is that Ben Shapiro would at the end say, we got to ban this stuff, make laws against this stuff, because he's actually been saying that about Disney recently. So like I said, the only difference I see with her is she's trying to frame it as more this is my opinion, you don't have to do this right now. The biggest thing I took away from this video is like she was saying it's a private company, it can do what it wants, and you have to win like the battle of ideas about this stuff. Is it so manufactured? Like this whole video, I do not see the problem with these clothes existing because, you know, trans people exist, there's a market for that, they want both these products she talks about. What's the problem? Are you actually really angry about that? And again, with her content, it's so manufactured. I don't believe she's angry about that. I don't believe she actually really cares about this. With Ben Shapiro, even though it is scripted, he's a very angry person. I do actually get the sense that he's such a bigot. He gets really wound up by just the smallest things. I do not get the sense with her. Maybe I'm being too kind about this. I just believe she's saying what people want to hear. It reminds me of a lot more polished Abby Shapiro. Do you guys remember when Abby Shapiro would do those videos about how oppressive it is to be like a modern conservative?
Being conservative today is not an easy path. You will be faced with every kind of hatred, from minor insults of your intelligence to the doxing of your private information to rioting and violence. You will be labeled a million different things that have nothing to do with your true beliefs.
And it is literally the most scripted, soulless content ever. But then in my videos watching her content, when she makes like vlogs about her life, she's actually like a pretty good YouTuber. I can see why people would enjoy that. And the contrast between that and her scripted stuff is so stark. Whereas with Brett's content and her background as being an actor, I feel like it's more manufactured, but it's more polished, so it feels more authentic. I also just can't get over the room setup. It makes me laugh so much. Like, this is just like the typical Gen Z streaming room. I love how hard they have to try and copy the popularity of like liberal leftist streamers doing stuff for their bedroom, because conservatives just can't do this as well. Because I guess fundamentally there's a massive political shift, and Gen Z people who are more sympathetic to things like socialism and leftism don't really care for fake conservative YouTubers and streamers. So staying on the transgender theme, I want to talk about this a little bit. So she made a video about Beto O'Rourke wearing a pro-trans rights t-shirt, and she just talks about like a bunch of bigoted comments. And then here's one she reads from someone with a Ukrainian flag, so you already know the take from this person is going to be the worst. And then she talks about how like America and the left are obsessed with trans people. So let's have a look at this.
As a non-American, can someone explain to me the obsession that you have for trans whatever? I never even met one in my life, but this seems to be the most important subject in your lives. Guys, this is how people see us. That our country is obsessed with trans people. I mean, they're not wrong. The left is obsessed with changing our entire society and culture for less than 1% of the population, and the right is determined to keep that from happening. I mean, the fact that this has become such a huge issue in the first place is just mind-boggling, and it's honestly embarrassing that it's the way that people see our country.
So apparently the reputation for being obsessed with transgender people comes from leftists. It's not anything to do with conservatives. So I went on incognito mode and I just typed in comment section with Brett Cooper trans, and I thought I'd have a little look at how many videos she's made about this, because apparently we're obsessed. We're always talking about this no matter what. Oh look, there is a bunch of shorts all talking about transgender people with millions of views, and then we slide down a bit more. Look how many videos she has made about transgender people. I thought we were the obsessive ones, but she seems to take pleasure in hating on transgender people for most of her content at the moment, and it's part of, like I said earlier, a wider culture war by American conservatives on the trans community. She just frames it in a way that seems a bit more neutral, I guess, because she isn't overtly angry about these things. I grant that the left are like some of the only people to stand up for the trans community. I won't grant that they're being obsessive, because it's conservatives that are passing laws in many, many states to completely oppress trans people, essentially trying to get rid of them. They don't want trans people to even exist. And that's why there's a backlash against these people, because they can't simply live and let live. A lot of conservatives like to say they're about freedom, and then they want to defend legislation so you don't have freedom. It's conservatives that are pushing this really hateful ideology, and that's why it feels like a bit dystopian to ape the aesthetics of like left-wing streamers to push a really hateful ideology like you're their best friend on Twitch or something. So moving on, Hasan actually called her out on a lot of this stuff, and she reacted to it. And it plays into my theory that she just titles stuff to get the comments going. I guess it is called the comment section. So she titled this video, leftist streamer triggered by the comment section. He wasn't like triggered at all. I think Hasan is a lot more willing than me to be a bit more mean-spirited, and I found his commentary on her really, really funny. But also she doesn't really respond in a way that's very convincing. Like if this was me personally on YouTube, I probably wouldn't make this response video if I didn't have a good counter argument, because it doesn't seem like, apart from saying like Hasan is Cenk Uyghur's nephew, that she has much of a response to most of his criticism about how manufactured and fake her whole show is.
Like, this is my professional studio in my house, right? And it's still my living room, you know? It's not a real room, as I called.
I love the fact that he felt like it was a gotcha to find out that this was not a real room. I've never hidden that.
Dude, it's so wild to just like sit in a studio and try to recreate like a streamer setup.
Also, I don't think that there is necessarily anything bad or delegitimizing about doing something professionally or in a studio. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like if, streamers and YouTubers had the budget and the resources to be able to be in like a controlled environment with a whole set. I mean, you just said that you were, chopping off a corner of your living room to have your professional studio. If you have the resources to be able to have that, I feel like it makes life a lot easier and it allows you to, focus on your work and your commentary. So I'm grateful for it and I've never hidden it.
If there's one thing that young people are very good at spotting, it's fake corporate garbo, okay? This person is so deliberate. This isn't live. This is not done in an authentic way. No matter how psychotic you are, or no matter how much of a pathetic little simp you are, and think like, oh, a woman saying my opinions on the internet, I will watch everything. No matter how deep in that cut you are, it is going to be too fake. It's multiple angles. You know what I mean? Multiple angles for cameras, well lit. You know what I mean? It's not authentic, and people will spot that.
Statistically speaking, the largest segment of my audience is 18 to 24, and then the audience is also split 50-50 male and female. So it's not like I just have a bunch of like 18-year-old boys that are like, oh my God, conservative girl speaking.
Not going to have real moments of pure outrage, because all of the pure outrage that you see on this is created beforehand, written beforehand. The reactions are not genuine, and therefore people can recognize it.
I put this show together. I pick my segments. I have, veto power over anything. It's structured around what I choose. So this isn't some like corporate top down, like, Brett, you need to talk about this and talk this way when we're presenting you with a script and react to this. No, it's genuinely the stuff that I'm interested in.
Honestly, the points Hasan said were so true. And she just knows deep down, like, he's so right about this. Like, this whole show is just meant to be the idea of what Gen Z think Twitch streamers and YouTubers are like, but it just isn't like that because there's no authenticity. The editing is really clean as well. I'm guessing you probably don't sit for hours slaving over the edits like people like me doing it for like 6 or 7 hours. But Brett, if you want to be an authentic YouTuber, you can follow my guide for making content. I lay in bed on my phone for about 3 hours watching videos, like watching your videos today, and screenshotting things, and then maybe like work out while watching more, and then set up my set, record, and then stay up till like 7 a.m. making the video, uploading it, and doing the thumbnail. If you want authenticity, you've got to like walk a mile in a YouTuber's shoes. So that's my advice to you, to deliver more authentic content. And she's actually streaming right now with quite good numbers. I can see it next to Vosh's 3.2k watching, but this growth is just not organic. I can't believe this growth is organic. She has 381k now. She had 315 when Hasan made that video. But this whole thing is like part of a wider push by the Daily Wire. Don't they have like Matt Walsh writing children's book to try and counter gender identity ideology? And now you have this fake Gen Z Twitch streamer making videos primarily about transgender people and the culture war. And the thing is, these accounts are popular. The right wing are popular on YouTube. That's not something you can really debate, but a lot of this is just funded by corporations. Like most left-wing people like myself are funded by Patreon, ad revenue, Twitch subs, things like that. You actually have to grind your ass off to make a living on YouTube. Like I know I do. I work more than 40 hours a week on my channel. She probably just shows up to the studio a couple hours early, maybe writes the show and records it. It's only a 6-minute clip as well. It seems like a pretty cushy job. I'm guessing she probably also gets a nice paycheck as well. For someone who I feel is acting in most of these things, and even if maybe she is right-wing and conservative, which she probably is, I'm still not sure she gets as outraged as she kind of pretends she was with clothes for trans people. Now we've looked at Brett's content. Now I just want to talk about The other Daily Wire members, Ben Shapiro and Michael Knowles, who are also failed Hollywood actors and screenplay writers. I think we'll start with Michael Knowles. He actually looks really familiar. Like, I feel like I've seen him in something before. Is he in something famous? I couldn't find anything too famous on here, but let's go through his IMDb page as well. So Michael Knowles' filmography is a bit more extensive than Brett. I still wouldn't say it's anything special though. So he was in a film called American Criminal. So he's in another film from 2019 called The Savant. An autistic high school student with fighting abilities is trained by a suspended police officer who has dreams of becoming an MMA fighter. I watched a trailer for this. It looks crap. I thought it was a parody thing at first, and he's in it playing someone called Shane Parr. The Outdoorsman is another thing. Jason has made up his mind. He's going to live in the wilderness for a year. One problem, he's never been camping. While he's preparing, he meets Mona, a goal-oriented corporate type who has just suffered a breakdown at work. They fall in love, but ultimately Jason must decide, follow his dream or his heart. And Michael Knowles only plays a medical researcher in this low-budget film that you've probably never heard of. He's in another thing called Blend In. He's actually in the poster. That is some bad graphic design right there. One thing he starred in was called Survive, which had 5 episodes in 2011. He played Peter Warren. I couldn't find any like significant footage or screenshots of this. The only significant thing he's been in is Steven Soderbergh's The Knick, which stars Clive Owen, and he was in season 1 episode 10, and he basically just played a doctor, and I think it was just an extra part. So just like Brett, Michael Knowles is a political commentator on the Daily Wire, famous for going after Greta Thunberg. What a nice guy he seems like. But again, just another stupid talking head for this conservative propaganda outlet. But now let's get to basically the head honcho, Ben Shapiro. And I spoke about this before in another video. But Ben Shapiro is, of course, a failed screenplay writer. So an article in Indie 100, what Ben Shapiro's failed career as a dramedy scriptwriter tells us about the American right. Ben Shapiro grew up in LA where both his parents worked in Hollywood. His father was a composer and his mother worked as an exec for a TV company. In a strange coincidence, this is actually funny, I've spoken about this before, his cousin is Mara Wilson, who is best known for playing Matilda in the beloved 90s film. However, if you've seen her Twitter page and the messages that she endorses, it's fairly obvious that the two relatives share very different ideologies and life society. Pretty sure they don't speak to each other anymore. According to one of Ben Shapiro's books about liberal Hollywood, after he graduated Harvard, he began interviewing TV execs about liberalism in the TV world. This is when he met Leonard Goldberg, who was the former head of programming for ABC and was once president of 20th Century Fox. According to Shapiro, Goldberg proposed that Shapiro write a pilot episode for a show set at Harvard Law School, which he accepted. Shapiro wrote a spec script that was reportedly well received and began the process of finding an agent. It wasn't long after this that he got a phone call from a television agent who, according to Shapiro, informed him that he had been blacklisted. This comes from primetime propaganda and is supposedly what the agent said. One of our agents Googled you and found your website. I'm not sure we can represent you because he thinks your political views will make it impossible for you to get a job in this town. He also recounted in more detail in the same book tour that this time in June 2011 during a talk at the Heritage Foundation, where he claimed that a Hollywood producer was familiar with his work and told the agent to blacklist him, adding that hundreds of conservatives within the Hollywood system are far too scared to express their views out of fear of the same thing happening to them. But my point with all that is Ben Shapiro's story sounds very familiar to Brett Cooper's story in that they could not get work because of their conservative views, which I do find very hard to believe. Maybe Ben Shapiro's is a bit more believable because he has a track record and a paper trail of his conservative viewpoints. Brett Cooper definitely doesn't. But with an industry that will welcome back Mel Gibson with open arms, despite his gross political views and just hatred for minority groups, will give Vince Vaughn a lot of roles, loves Clint Eastwood, very well-known conservative, obviously in the past loved Ronald Reagan, loved Jimmy Stewart. Conservatives have been in Hollywood forever. There's just been a bit of a shift since the 1970s with more liberal artsy types taking over because they make good movies. And that's the problem a lot of these people don't understand. There aren't many conservative filmmakers or artists because conservative ideology, it does not make for good art. If you're promoting and propping up the status quo, you're not making anything challenging. You're not promoting ideas that might get people thinking. You're literally just showing people like what the world really is. Like people like Fight Club, people like things like Mr. Robot, people like things like American Psycho, because they're like subversive. They criticize the system we live in. If American Psycho was a film about how great Reaganomics was and how great a president Ronald Reagan was, no one would like that film because it wouldn't be a good movie. If Mr. Robot was about the virtues of neoliberalism after the 2008 crash, people probably wouldn't like that either. If Fight Club was about how the globalized 90s were a utopia for mankind, people probably wouldn't like that because conservative ideology is not really compatible with good storytelling. I firmly believe Ben Shapiro failed in Hollywood because the stuff he wrote was crap. And I firmly believe Brett Cooper abandoned Hollywood. Maybe she didn't fail, maybe it was a choice, but if she failed, it wasn't because of her political views, it wasn't because she got blacklisted like Ben Shapiro claims he was, it's just because Hollywood is hard. Many people who become wildly successful actors had very, very hard journeys to become that successful. It's not for everyone, not everyone can make it, very, very competitive, especially in a place like LA or New York. A lot of people who go to LA to become actors and actresses start to do things like podcasts. I don't know if you guys used to watch that Collider show and it had like a podcast and movie news. Most people there were aspiring screenwriters or actors and they transitioned to hosting because it was just an easier gig to get, in my opinion. But I think the same thing is happening with the comment section with Brett Cooper. And I just think it's absolutely uncanny how much she sounds and looks like Ben Shapiro as well. And I feel like while her channel will be successful relatively, just like someone like maybe Yeonmi Park, the North Korean grifter who has a lot of views and has a lot of subscribers, I think this is just going to be preaching to the choir. Like she said in one of her videos, her audience is 50-50. I'm telling you as a fact right now, her audience is not 50-50 female and male. It's probably about like 80% male. And I'm not saying that just because she's a female host. I'm saying that because YouTube is primarily watched by men. Political YouTube is primarily watched by men. I've spoken to other creators who look at the analytics and it is mostly men. Mine is mostly men. It's just the way political YouTube is. I really, really doubt she has a 50-50 split audience, especially when I look at her comment section where it pretty much is all men. So what next for the Daily Wire? They're copying people like Hasan. Maybe they're gonna get some failed Gen Z actor to become a Vosh clone or something like that. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Please like and subscribe. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.